we'll discuss from the Assistant Public Prosecutor, Directorate of Prosecutions. We'll quickly cover it, and then we'll proceed to the next topic, which is on arrest. So in half an hour time, I'll cover this. So public prosecutor we have seen, and I said you yesterday that the old law section 24, clause 6. I asked all of you to just go through that provisions and see how many state has make amendment under clause 6. Uh, so most of the state make amendments so that they can avoid the obligations under clause 6. So none of the state or majority of the state does not want to appoint the public prosecutor from the cadre, because probably they will lose control from the prosecuting agencies, and they wanted to keep the prosecuting agencies under their control, and that's why they have make amendment in clause 6. When we got this new law, BNSS, here also we seen whatever the state amendment was there, that has been added in the proviso of section this clause 6 proviso. So that if the government thinks that there's no competent persons in the cadre, they can appoint public prosecutor from the panel prepared by the district magistrate, DM. Assistant public prosecutor. Now, most of the places, the assistant public prosecutors are cadre. They appoint from the public service commissions. So state government shall have a power to appoint every district one or more assistant public prosecutor for magistrate court. So the assistant APP are for the magistrate court. The central government can also appoint APP. We know the cases deal with the CBI or other central agencies. So the APPs are appointed by the central government. The power come from here only. So earlier it was section 25. In the new law, it is section 19, clause 2. And then in some exceptional circumstances, they given some permissions to other persons. Now, I don't know why they have kept remain it. It was there in this earlier CRPC. So in the cases where the APPs are not available, then the district magistrate can appoint some other advocates, etc., as an assistant public prosecutor. Then there's a proviso, and proviso says provided that no police officer shall be eligible to be appointed as an assistant public prosecutor if he has taken part in the investigation into the offense and is below the rank of inspector. Now remember, this thing was there in the CRPC. So now when it was there in the CRPC, that a police inspector or above rank officers can act as a police prosecutor in magistrate court, we can understand its presence in the CRPC. The reason being that before 1973 CRPC, in most of the places in India, the magistrate court, there were police prosecutors. So suddenly in 1973, we came to a situation where we wanted to complete a separation between executive and judiciary, and we don't want that the prosecution should be done by the police officer. So we make a complete shift in 1973. That point of time, as a makeshift arrangement, this provision was there in the section 25 CRPC, that in some cases where APP is not available, even in some cases the DM can appoint the APP, and then the police officer can also act as an APP with some this caveat. So it was understandable for the 23 CRPC because we are in transition. Now the thing has settled from 1973. Now we are 2025. So Act came into force in 2024. I don't think there's any justifications for keeping this provision that, okay, if it is inspector, then the inspector and above rank officer, he should not do part of the investigation. Why we need arises? The prosecutor, we have ample number of prosecutors, advocates are there. Why police will act as an assistant public prosecutor? So these provisions, I think it was unnecessarily has been dragged into the new BNSS, but it was there in the CRPC also. And I said why it was there, because of the transition period. Now, there's a significant development in this Directorate of Public Prosecution. We need to understand this provision, why it was came into existence. In the year 2003, a committee was constituted in 2001 sometime. We called Malimat committee. It was the Justice V.S. Malimat. Under his leadership, a committee was there to suggest the measures for improvement in the criminal justice system. And that committee in their report suggested to the government that we don't have any kinds of accountability or auditing or over supervising the prosecuting agency. There's no mechanisms. And they suggested that we should have a director of prosecution who will oversee the functioning of prosecuting department. So it was a suggestion of Malimat committee. And then accordingly, we got amended in the CRPC. We got a section called section 25 capital A. So 25 capital A was talking about a director of public prosecution. So in that system, it was a director of prosecution at the state level, and the deputy director was for the district. Now, that time also, because for transition, the word may was there, so it's not mandatory, state may implement, but this is differently for the betterment of criminal justice system, this director of prosecution. Now, after so many years, when we got this new BNSS, they are also stationizing that like a transition period, the what kinds of language which says may, they keep the same language here, state may established. That means state may not established. So they are giving discretion to the state. If they wish, they can appoint director of prosecution. What is the new thing? The new thing which they have added, again, you will find the red color, district director of prosecution. So state level will have a director of prosecutions. At the district level, we will have a district director of prosecutions. What is the other additions in the new law? So for qualifications are concerned, other than the advocate and the prosecutors who can become director, deputy director, or assistant director, they extended these, then the laid down the provision they have laid down that any judicial officers of the session judge court level can be appointed as director or deputy director. Judicial magistrate rank officers can be appointed as the assistant director. Now, this give a signal that tomorrow government might intended to appoint from the judicial officers as director or deputy director. That's what the indication we can find from section 20. This was not there in the old law. So one, they should have make it mandatory because it's a really good provisions. In fact, among all the functionaries, if you see, police, prosecutor, judges, other functionaries, we have accountability mechanisms. The only agencies where there is a lack of accountability system, we don't have a very effective accountability system, it is the prosecuting agencies. Now, to that vacuum, the gap which exists, this director of prosecutions could have become a miracle. It could solve the issue. It could help in improving the system of prosecutions. But unfortunately, again, our legislature has failed to really fulfill the aspirations, the kinds of director of prosecutions should be required for the country. Okay, so that's the basically prosecuting agencies and laid down their functions, etc. I requested all of you to please go through yourself. So I believe you have gone through it. So I'll not go through each of the clauses of these sections. Then interestingly, the metropolitan area, the metropolitan magistrate has been changes. Director of prosecution, I already told you. Power and functions has been laid down here. Now we come to the court power. Now court power in the CRPC, it was section 26 to 35. So far BNSS is concerned, it is from 21 to 29. Now what was there, by and large it is same. With some minor changes, and I'll explain what other changes are there. So section 21 talk about code by which the offenses are triable. So you will find the criminal code in section 6. So High Court, Court of Session, then the magistrate court under which the trial can be conducted. Sentence which the High Court and the Session Judge may pass, you must have gone through in the CRPC, the same provisions. High Court can pass any sentence, Session Judge can pass any sentence. Only thing is death penalty require confirmation from the High Court. That same thing was there in the CRPC also under section 28. Magistrate power, these are minor changes are there. CGM, it was same earlier, 7 years, now again 7 years. First class, 3 years, again 3 years. Only thing is, in the CRPC, the fine amount which the judicial magistrate first class can impose was 10,000 rupees. In the BNSS, it is 50,000 rupees. And then one more punishment has been added in Nyaya Sanhita, is called community service. And accordingly, that thing has been incorporated here, that the magistrate can also issue the order for community service. Second class, we are not concerned. West Bengal, we don't have second class, but there also the fine amount has been increased to 10,000 rupees, which was earlier lesser amount. Now, earlier it was section 30 and now it becomes section 24. There, law laid down about the punishment, how much imprisonment in default of fine. So, there is some slight changes which are made under the Act. So, the imprisonment, it says under the section may be additions to the substances provision which are given under the maximum to the Act. Default sentences, now again is very controversial issues because the people's who are poor, indigent, they don't afford to pay money. And the issue may always raise that those who are affluent, who are moneyed people, so they can pay the amount and they are getting lesser punishment. Those are indigent, they cannot pay the amount and they will give a punishment. So the court in one of the cases clarified that default sentence distinguished from substantive sentence. Concurrent running of default sentence inter se or with substantive sentence is not permissible, because remember, default sentence comes only at the later stage when someone is not able to pay the fine, and so default sentence comes in lieu of fine. They can go given punishment. Now there is a very significant change in section 25. Earlier it was section number 31. What significant changes was there? If you remember the old provision of the CRPC, that when the court pass a sentence in a case where there is a multiple offense for which the person is being accused. So a person might be accused in for 3 or 4 offenses. So at the same case, say someone enter illegally other person's home, trespass, committed theft, while running away touches the body of a woman, outraging the modesty. So you have one go, you have 3 offenses. Persons got convicted for all 3 offenses. All 3 of them magistrate tribal. Say in one case for trespass, the court has given 1 year imprisonment. For theft, court has given 2 years imprisonment. For outraging the modesty, court again given 2 years punishment. How many years the accused will be there in the jail? So the section 31 in the old law, the formula was that if the court mentioned that all the sentences will run concurrently, then it will run concurrently. But if the court was silent and did not utter a single word, then it will run consecutively, one after another. And there the issues comes, say if it is consecutively, the how long period? Here the old law was that if it is consecutively one after another, then that punishment should not be double of the power of that judge. Second, it should not be more than 14 years. That was the provision under section 31 of the CRPC. The new law, first change there, it says, now it says, considering the gravity of the offense, order such punishment to run concurrently or consecutively. Now it is it directed the court, you have to mention whether the sentence will run concurrently or consecutively. It was not there earlier. So earlier, if the judge was kind enough to write concurrently, it means concurrently. If judge remains silent, it means consecutively. Now that option is not there. Now the law mandate in clause 1, the judge has to mention in the judgment whether the sentences shall run concurrently or sentences shall run consecutively. Second thing change was there, that earlier what was 14 years, double remains same. So now it says 20 years. So under the new law, it cannot be more than so in a case consecutive sentence, it shall not be necessary for the court by reasons only to aggravate punishment for several offences being excess of the punishment which is competent to inflict on the accused person. And then it's laid down A, in no case it will be more than 20 years. B, it shall not the sentence aggravated punishment shall not exceed twice the amount of the punishment which court is competent. So remember, the judicial magistrate first class is competent up to 3 years. Then he can give imprisonment up to 6 years. CJM is competent to give punishment up to 7 years. So here it can be double to minus 14 years. So in that way we can calculate it if this whether it's run if when it is running consecutively, but if it's running concurrently, then at one go all the punishment will the persons can discharge. So earlier this kind of issue arises whether it's concurrent or consecutive. So concurrent or consecutive running of the sentence. When an accused is convicted in one case under the different count of the offences and the sentence to different term of the imprisonment under each such count, all such sentence should be directed to run concurrently. That's the court says. But the law provision was that if they are not directed, then it will run consecutively one after another. This is another case of the Supreme Court. Unless the court directs that the substantive sentences should run concurrently, the normal principle is that the sentence would commence one after another. That means consecutively one after another. Now that option is not there. Under the new law, under the BNSS, the court has to specifically mention in the sentence whether the sentence run concurrently or the sentence run consecutively. Muthurangilam case, this case, court says multiple sentence, persons convicted of several offences at one trial and sentenced to multiple sentence for life imprisonment, the same cannot be directed to run consecutively. They can only run concurrently because remember the life imprisonment means till death. Life imprisonment all along always means life till death. There was no other issue. It was never less than life. Only issue is, and that answer was there in IPC, now in Nyaya Sanhita. What will happen when we have to decide about the fraction of life? And your IPC given answer to this, and IPC says that in those circumstances, when you have to decide about the fraction of life, life means, in those circumstances, life means 20 years. So life is all along, always, life always means life till death. It was never less than death. Life always means life till death. Only circumstances comes where you have to decide about the fraction of life. Then your IPC, now the Nyaya Sanhita says life means 20 years. But many times we use the word 14 years. And there's a reason for it, not 15 years. We use 14 years. The 14 years reason was that in CRPC, there was a sections called 433A, which was inserted in CRPC. So when in section 433, the provision was in CRPC that when a person's got imprisonment or punishment, the state can commute the sentences. And so the state has unlimited power, they can commute any sentences. And thereafter, there are several cases where court says, no, this is exorbitant power given to the state, there must be limit. So can states commute the sentence where punishment is life imprisonment? And that's why 433A has been added in the CRPC, which says that the state cannot commute the sentence unless the person serve imprisonment of 14 years. So from there, many times we use the idea of 14 years. But legally speaking, life imprisonment all along always means life till death, nothing else. Okay. Mode of conferring power is basically rule making power by which the can be confer. Power of the officer appointed, not that not much we are concerned. 28, the power can be withdrawn also. Power of the magistrate exercised by their successor. So one magistrate has done, their successor can in office can do that power. So these are the changes in this chapter, what we find there. Now, same way the next chapter was on the power of the superior police officers. Now, remember, while discussing about the officer in charge definition, and I said that officer in charge definitions, when we read one side, it gives, it says that anyone above the constable rank, head constable can also be officer in charge. On the other side, this chapter has given power to superior officers. So even DG can act as an officer in charge. So this section basically talking about the power of the police officers, and they can ask or direct the persons to assist the police in discharge of their duty. So 30 is talking about the power of superior police officer. Rank of in charge of police station may exercise the same power throughout the local area. So this was 36 earlier in the old law. So what of the power are some inspector exercise or an officer in charge exercise? Any superior can also exercise the same power. And public, when to assist the magistrate and police, if they ask for assistance from the public, like you, like me, anyone, they have a duty to assist the police officer in discharge of their official duty, etc. On the 31, that's the obligations. 32, aid to persons other than police officer executing warrant. So someone who executing warrant, they can also ask for assistance and we can provide, anyone can provide assistance. Public to give information of certain offences, they lay down certain kinds of enlisted offences. So if anyone get information about it, they have to inform the police. Remember, nowadays there are many coercive mechanisms has been adopted, that if you don't give information, that itself a penal offense. For example, we don't have in IPC those kinds of provisions always. But say, for example, a POXO. Under POXO, law says those who have a knowledge about the sexual offense against the children, if they don't inform the police, they themselves are liable. And there are many instances where a doctor, superintendent of correctional home or children home, etc., are being prosecuted because they suppress violation. So a doctor who did, say, abortion of a child, the mother or the girl itself is a minor, and their abortion is being carried out. Or a child has given a birth to another child, and doctor did not inform the police. That itself is an offense under the law. So that's law. Many times they put obligation that, okay, if you know about the offenses, you have to inform the police. So there are obligations under this law. Also under 33, there is a long list of the offenses. Lalita Kumari is about the FIR issues. We will discuss about the FIR in a little later part. 34 is talking about the duty of the officer employed in connection with the affair of the village to make certain report. So now some places this practice is there. It's an old practice, but not very common in all places today. So that's basically the first 3 chapters which we are discussed. So we discuss about the functionaries. Now the functionaries which has not been, so we discuss about the magistrate, we discuss about the public prosecutor, we discuss about police to some extent, but police power we can look into when we talk about the arrest, when we talk about the investigation power, because those power we are going to discuss separately. There are other functionaries like forensic experts. Law has laid down some obligations on them. Defense lawyers, they are created by Advocates Act. Correctional home, they are all created by an act called for West Bengal Correctional Services Act. So in that way, these different functionaries are created by different law, but their role and responsibility were incorporated in earlier in the CRPC. Now those are incorporated in the BNSS.